Star Wars, Episode 9 Theory. The Knights of Ren are in Kylo's future. Well, good. Let's hope putting a mask back over that goofy-looking scowl of his is in his future in Episode 9 as well.
Boo! You suck!
How's it going, everybody? This is Phil. I saw this article and I thought I'd check it out because, you know, the Knights of Ren in The Force Awakens, when, you know, Star Wars still had a lot of goodwill left in it, it was something that really intrigued me. I thought these guys look cool. They were mysterious. You know, we see them in the rain. We see Kylo Ren here. They just seemed like a badass ragtag team of Jedi, or, you know, Dark Jedi, or potential Siths, or whatever have you. I mean, they just seemed like really cool warriors with a lot of potential. And, you know, like so much else in what has become the sequel trilogy, it seems to have been squandered. And, you know, they really weren't alluded to at all. We didn't see them in The Last Jedi. We got plenty of Rose Tico and Holdo and Canto Bight, but, you know, none of the Knights of Ren. And, you know, I mean, Jesus, even Kylo Ren, you know, he just takes his mask off and smashes it, and he loses a lot. You know, this is not a bad design, really. And he just loses a lot of his menace. You know, the voice was a little garbled, but I thought it was pretty cool. It could have kind of been a little less modulated for my personal taste, but it did have a distinct sound. And I thought before they took his mask off in the first film, I thought Kylo was interested. I didn't even necessarily mind his temper tantrums in the beginning because it just made him seem unstable. But when you know, when he takes the mask off and you just see like it's this kid who's kind of trying to play tough, it really, really takes away, at least it did for me, it just took a lot of wind out of the sails for that character. Anyway, let's check out this article and see what's doing here. And this comes to us by way of a Screen Rant. And I guess when Stephen Colbert isn't doing a late night show, he's over here writing for Screen Rant as well. I have no idea. Probably not the same person. All right, so let's get cruising with this, shall we? So this is Rian Johnson has been accused of changing J.J. Abrams' plan when he didn't include the Knights of Ren in Star Wars The Last Jedi. I mean, that's just one thing he's been accused of in that movie. But what if they were only absent because they wouldn't actually be formed until Star Wars Episode 9? After a brief tease in Star Wars The Force Awakens, fans expected the Knights of Ren to get more attention in The Last Jedi, but they weren't anywhere to be seen. And yes, again, you would think it would just be, I mean, that's a layup. You know, these are The Force Awakens. Say what you want about it being absolutely derivative of A New Hope. I mean, we all know that. I mean, it's, you know, it's a lot of the same. It's a rehash, but it's kind of a soft reboot. And I can forgive that if The Last Jedi ended up following through on a lot of what they hinted at in The Force Awakens and really took it to the next level. Unfortunately, a lot of this stuff was literally, like Luke's lightsaber, tossed right over their shoulders as far as following through with any types of setups to have a payoff in this movie, The Last Jedi. So, yeah, it was it was very disappointing in a sense. You know, it was just one more disappointment in a long list of disappointments that took place in that film. So let's see. Some have criticized Rian Johnson for ignoring what J.J. Abrams set up by ignoring the Knights of Ren. But according to Johnson, there simply wasn't room for them in the plot of Star Wars The Last Jedi. Whoa. I mean, that's one of the most absurd things that he could ever say. Wait, there was no time to add any subplot that would utilize them, and while he considered using them as Snoke's Praetorian Guards, that would have resulted in them all dying, so he opted not to reference them at all. Okay, there was no time to add any subplot. What the hell was Canto Bight? That's over 20 minutes of screen time wasted there. You're telling me that, look, Ivan Ortega for those of you who may not know, I'm sure anybody who's looking at my channel, you know, I don't even have 100 subscribers at this point, but Ivan Ortega, with his 30,000, I think he's up to now, he edited down that candle bite sequence from about 20 minutes to like 2.5 minutes. I mean, he made such... he cut that scene to ribbons. I mean, he got it down. He trimmed so much fat, and he just kept what he absolutely needed to move the plot forward. That whole side mission is a complete red herring. It does nothing to forward the plot of that movie. It's a waste of time. We could have had Luke and Rey actually training on Act 2. We could have had, Jesus, we could have had the Knights of Ren pursuing Poe and Finn and Leia on some kind of other side mission, or attacking the fleet, or anything else aside of that Canto Bight sequence. I mean, there certainly was time. If you take that Canto Bight sequence, you chop it down to 3 minutes, and you're telling me you can't take that 17 minutes and give the Knights of Ren some time in that movie? I mean, you could spread them out over the film and make them feel like they're there for a lot longer than they are. I mean, you look at movies that featured characters where their presence is felt throughout the whole movie, but yet they get minimal screen time. I mean, you look at a movie like Jaws, you barely see the shark. You look at a movie like Beetlejuice with the great Michael Keaton, he's barely on film for that whole movie. He's talked about, you know, he's hinted at, and then when you see him, he lights the screen on fire, but really it's not a lot of time that he's on screen. Silence of the Lambs, okay? I mean, Hannibal Lecter, he's barely on screen for 15 minutes or so. I mean, so don't give me this nonsense that there wasn't any room when you're taking up 20 minutes of our time for a sequence that wasn't even needed to go find somebody with a whatever that bloom, whatever that shit was on his lapel, and then you find him and you end up with some dirtbag that you ended up in prison with for basically double parking on a beach, and you take his word and then he double crosses you, and I mean, it's just a complete waste of time. This is another thing. This is how he Johnsoned. This is how this movie was Johnson. It's making me crazy going back thinking about this. I haven't thought of it in a while. Now I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight again. Leaving the Knights of Ren out of both Star Wars: The Force Awakens and Star Wars: The Last Jedi may make it awkward to finally bring them into the plot of Star Wars Episode 9. There is no more awkward. Awkward is over. We're getting everything we possibly can in Episode 9. So just bring in the Knights of Ren. You might as well bring in the Sesame Street gang while you're at it. But it turns out the glimpse of them in Rey's Forceback vision was actually a glimpse of the future. Then it just might work. No. I mean, come on. All right. And here's... this is, I guess, concept art of the Knights of Ren. They look kind of cool. They look more like a ragtag bunch of bounty hunters than they do outcast of Luke's fallen Jedi temple. You know, I mean, although it looks like they were out of any other color except, you know, brown, gray, and black when they designed these characters that day. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, just a splash of color here or there, maybe some orange or red. Holy cow. I mean, you look at the lineup of those bounty hunters in The Empire Strikes Back, when on the bridge of that Star Destroyer, and man, I mean, they're cool looking. I mean, these guys are pretty cool looking, but I mean, they all look like they shop at the same place, you know, as a Hot Topic. You know, they had like a sale on bounty hunter gear that day. Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world to add some color. Everything doesn't have to be so morose and dreary all the time for it to come across as being pretty cool. You know, I mean, you look at Boba Fett, he's got some of the most colorful armor you've seen of the franchise. Anyway, one of the biggest complaints some fans had against Star Wars: The Last Jedi was that it seemed to abandon a number of things J. Abrams set up in Star Wars: The Force Awakens. You think what those criticisms miss, we've been missing things all this time, guys, is that many of the things Abrams introduced in The Force Awakens were merely part of his famous mystery box. Well, you could take that mystery box and shove it up your ass. Don't give us things that you don't intend on following through on. And whether it's J.J. Abrams or Rian Johnson, you know, none of this misdirection, you know, that's what they did on the show Lost, and that's why you lost your audience. And, you know, that's how you lose a franchise, too. Existing only to create intrigue or mask the movie's big twist, particularly the reveal that Kylo Ren is actually Ben Solo. Whatever. let's see, naturally Ben Solo can't go by his real name, betrays a reveal in the movie, so he's given a new name like Darth Vader, only he's not a Sith, so he can't be Darth Kylo. Instead, they give him the name Kylo Ren and invented the Knights of Ren as a backstory to where the Ren title came from. The only explicit reference to the Knights of Ren in canon are in Star Wars The Force Awakens when Snoke calls Kylo the Master of the Knights of Ren, or the shot of them in Rey's vision. Once it's revealed that Kylo is actually Ben Solo, both the mask and the name are suddenly less important, to that character's detriment. Rian Johnson has Ben literally destroy the mask in the opening minutes of Star Wars The Last Jedi and essentially destroy probably 50% of the merchandise sales for that character. Because I have no interest in a Kylo Ren action figure or collectible without that mask. And I'm sure a lot of people probably don't at this point. I mean, it just does nothing for me to look at Ben Solo. I mean, the guy he just pouts and he scowls, you know, and he looks confused, and sometimes he looks like a hurt puppy dog, and there's nothing menacing about that character and his conflicting emotions that he can't seem to get a grip of. You know, this type of villain does not exude confidence and competent decision making, you know, and a cold, calculated manner of how he goes about pursuing his enemies and seeing his vision through to the end to, you know, essentially achieve victory. I mean, it's an ill-conceived character. Actually, I would say the idea of the character wasn't bad. It's the execution that falls short. That's the problem. That's always been my problem with Kylo Ren. I don't think he's necessarily a bad character. I just think the way that he was handled, all of these characters, look, Rey, Finn, Poe, Kylo Ren, they all suffer the same fate. They're conceptually good characters, and their execution has been poorly, grossly mishandled between both movies, honestly. I mean, they had fair starts, and then they just go right off the rails, and I have no faith whatsoever that you know, there's going to be any kind of a reasonable way to bring them back in the final movie. And look, if you're going to surprise me, but the writing's on the wall at this point. I don't think they go anywhere as far as leaving the movie on a high note and, you know, having these characters sitting there in a their own version of an Ewok village, having a big celebration, you know, a weenie roast at the end of the movie, with everyone clapping their hands and dancing around, you know, big tree house, having fun, sharing some blue milk and telling stories of back in the day. I just don't see it happening. Star Wars Last Jedi never mentioned Knights of Ren, and Rey and other characters refer to him as Ben. So let's see here. There simply isn't any purpose to the Knights of Ren anymore, and as Rian Johnson pointed out, there's really no place for them in the story. Abrams seems to agree, because he said he thinks they would make a great spin-off movie, implying they didn't see a place for them to be fleshed out in Star Wars The Last Jedi or Star Wars Episode 9, but there was plenty of time to bring in Rose Tico and flesh her out, and then you know, you could have General Holdo show up out of nowhere. And what did they do with those characters? General Holdo, didn't she have a backstory written for her? So it's okay to bring a character in out of nowhere that no one's ever heard of, in The Last Jedi, as in Holdo, and give her a significant screen time and have her make this big heroic sacrifice. But the Knights of Ren, which we actually catch a glimpse of on screen and are mentioned in the first movie, we can't get some kind of a book chronicling their tales leading into The Last Jedi, and then when they show up on screen, you're like, whoa, look at these dudes, we heard about them, they're pretty badass. And then you end up hearing that there's a book that talks about missions that they had gone on with Kylo Ren. I mean, it's funny how they pick and choose what they want to do, and it's almost always the wrong decision. This is the problem with Disney and Lucasfilm and Star Wars today. It's just complete bumbling. Ultimately, like Ben Solo's mask and ultimate name, there wasn't much use for the Knights of Ren once we know his true name and origin story, but that doesn't mean they still can't have a future in Star Wars Episode 9. You know, there's another pages. I'm not reading any more of this shit. What do they go into here? Rey's vision, Knights haven't actually formed yet. So basically they're talking about the fact that you know, these guys actually, Ray, this was a Force vision of the future, and you know, they actually don't exist. So that's the way of retconning the fact that they weren't seen in the second movie. So it's a cheap out, is what it is. It's a bunch of bullshit. All right. Anyway, Jesus. I mean, talk about Stephen Colbert. Talk about you know, just shilling and making excuses for just a bad movie. It continues to go on. What do you guys think about this whole nonsense? All things considered, look, I understand the movie is where it is. This trilogy is where it is right now. But well, let's look at these two-part question. Would you have liked to have seen the Knights of Ren in The Last Jedi instead of this Canto Bight sequence? I can't imagine anybody saying no. But look, if you like Canto Bight, man, that's all on you. I hope you sleep easy at night. Part 2. I know a lot of people probably are not even going to see Episode 9, but if you do go see Episode 9, or eventually get around to it, would you at least like to see the Knights of Ren on screen, just to see what the hell they do, what they're made of, what they, you know, their abilities are, just to see them in action? I mean, do you think that would be cool? I mean, look, this movie is stuffed to the gills with so much stuff. Now, I don't think you could fit them in. In The Last Jedi, you know, we have the slowest space race in the world, a side mission that doesn't matter for much. I mean, there was plenty of room to get these guys and do something, you know, have them be the ones who are chasing down the rebellion in more of a cat and mouse type of scenario, as opposed to this long chase when no ship can catch up to the next ship. They all go the same speed, apparently. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. I just can't really go on with this article. It's almost painful at this point. Anyway, look, comment down below, and please like the video, and if it's the first time here, feel free to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Next time I post a video, you'll be the first to know. And that's it. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Be happy, be safe, be healthy. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.